Hi everyone, welcome back to Let's Talk with Tiff. I'm Tiffany, and I want to thank you for joining me for another episode. So let's get into it. For today's topic, guys, I actually want to take a moment to give you a little bit of background of who I am. So let's dive into why I built this channel, who am I, and what's my background, and where are we headed. So to start, I built this channel a few years ago, maybe back in 2021 or 22. I did this because the topics that I want to bring here online for the people, for God's people, is mental health, absolutely, spiritual health, healing, facing truth, consciousness. These are the things that really matter to me. And as God has taken me down a path myself with Him, they're the very things that I have visited. You'll hear me talk a lot about my own personal story, my past involving drugs and alcohol, my past in my childhood, the things that went on in my life. That all has been leading me down a purposeful path with God. Everything is starting to come together in my life, and I also know that I've brought it here to share very openly and very honestly with you guys. So that's why I created the channel. I wanted a place to go to talk about truth, to talk about topics that really mattered in human development, in human function, and what's really going on inside of us and how involved is God in that process, right? Please know that along the way, I have surrendered so much of myself to this process because I really can't come on here and give information away unless God teaches it to me and help direct you guys. So that's why I started it, and I actually took a break for quite a while. I had started the channel, put content out there. That's why you'll see a big gap in my on the channel if you start looking around. I put out videos back when I first started, and then I took a break because I was guided to take a break, not because I was like wanting to or needed to. It was just the very thing that God had me do. I stepped away from all of my social media platforms for like 2 years, maybe. I started the channel pretty right away, and then God was like, nope. He was like, you're gonna come over here with me. And so I did. And like, believe it or not, I actually felt inside that there were times where I would go online and I would try and like do something, right? I almost felt a big part of me from within was blocked because He's in control, and I was in a season of like learning still with Him, And so finally, when I had surrendered to Him with all of this world of social media and creating content and topics and whatever it was, right? It was so necessary. Oh my goodness, so necessary for my growth, for my consciousness, for understanding truth, for guiding people, to actually sit here and tell you that like I don't really have all the answers, and like most humans that are out there, like something I've noticed on social media is that there are so many teachers out there right now, especially in this field. In this field, everybody is teacher. Everybody is sharing the way, how to do it, the reason for this, and why for that. And like something that I learned in my time stepping away from all these platforms with God, is that there is just so much that we actually don't know. And we need to maybe start there. And when I go online, I'm very careful today, because for me, it's a red flag if somebody is just like, this is the end all be all, this is why. I tread lightly there. Most people are sharing their experience, which I think is really important to state when you listen to somebody talk or teach, right? Guide you. What are they guiding you with? And like, is it, factual? How do you know that what they're saying is the way? For me personally, the only way is through God, and everything else is experience from others. That's what we share here. And so I like to really hone in on that concept of understanding experience through others, which is why when I returned back to social media, I felt very strongly inside that as you are on your own life journey path, be careful where you learn from, where you are guided to, and what people are teaching you. And if this is seeming like this is why, or this is the way, I really believe that there is only one, and that's with God, and everything else is other people's experiences. So keep that in mind. So that's kind of why I created the channel, and stepping away from the channel was important in order for me to learn a lot of these principles and learn also what's in social media today. There is an energy here that is very capturing of a human, their focus, what they start to believe, and their unconsciousness level that is roaming this earth. It has flooded this earth. And I always say right now, it is a really hard time to be alive. It's a hard time to be alive. It's a hard time to be a kid. It's a hard time to be a parent. It's a hard time to be an adult. It's a hard time because of this thing with social media, technology, AI, and what's out there. And if you're not careful, you will easily be swallowed up into this world. And so I'm very grateful that God pulled me away for a while, even as I just started this channel. It was absolutely necessary for me to understand deeper truths around social media, technology, artificial intelligence, and how capturing it is for the human mind and our consciousness level, or lack of. So I'm very grateful for that. But I did start this channel with those intentions. I want to help bring awareness, bring conversation around topics that really matter when it pertains to human function and behavior centered around consciousness or a lack of, through mind, through spirit. How does God play a role in that? Why we're here, for healing to be developed, and so forth. So that's my passion. I love talking about these things. My path, though, started as a non-believer, in fact, and I say that very openly. People that know me today know that I love God with all my heart. I've shared that here. And honestly, though, I was not always that person. And that's the truth. And a lot of that comes from my childhood. Not because I grew up in a home where there was no God. There was God. Oh yes, my mom, very big believer. However, I had a really hard childhood with a lot of trauma and a lot of pain and neglect and abandonment. And I had a lot of different culture running in our home, with my dad not being from here, America, and my mom being from here. They didn't even speak the same language. My dad's culture was very different, and a lot of sickness that ran just from his side or my mom's side. Nobody really even had a lot of awareness back then. Mental health wasn't even a big thing back then. And so we just were in a home, in an environment where I can honestly tell you my parents did the best they knew how, but it wasn't a very healthy environment. It was rather toxic and scary at times. And so my path was hard growing up. I'm the youngest of 3. I have sisters, and no, I did not believe in God, especially after what had happened to me when I was sexually abused. And I went down the path of drugs and alcohol, and then I had a lot of abandonment. There was a lot of neglect, just dealing with myself at such a young age, but not really having the tools to process my emotions, the guidance, parents that were present. This is like no disrespect to my parents. I love them. I forgive them today. And I also know that they did the best they knew how, given what their parents taught them. And that's really what it is like, you guys. I have learned with God's help that our parents did the best they knew how. Some parents fall shorter, okay? And some, they just do their best. And a lot of their parenting reflects what their parents gave them, what their parents did for them. showed them, taught them. And if your parents were never taught how to process emotions, how are they going to ever teach their own kids, right? And so I went through a lot of that. I had to really figure out emotions on my own, and it didn't go very well. It led me through a lot of emotional dysregulation that I am still facing today in my 40s. God has stepped in since I've given him my life in all the places my parents fell short. I really believe that with all my heart. He is the one that is teaching me today who I am, how to process my emotions with him by my side. And is it perfect? No. It's really messy, in fact, and hard. And I have no idea what I'm doing most days. But one thing that I do know is that he is there, God, and he is helping me. And so it's a one day at a time, we do it together process. And so no, I didn't always believe in God. And there was a time where I was really mad at God. And I thought, there's no God. Like, how could there be a God? All these horrible things happen to me. And if there was a God, that wouldn't happen, right? And that was my belief system back then. But so much has changed, as you know. Like, God is what I talk about here most of the time, because how can we talk about God, our creator, and really dive into mental health? There is absolutely the connection. It runs so deep that you really have to take a step back and open yourself up from within if you want to go there. You have to be brave, kind of. It takes courage to open up these places from within with God, because you will be unpacking, and it's going to be centered around truth, and it's going to be hard. When I went down the path of discovering God, and mainly through so much of my pain and then recovery, which led me to God, and I will forever be grateful to the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous, because they led me to God. God didn't keep me in those rooms. No, I don't go to those meetings today. I focus solely on him, God. But they were my stepping stone to understanding God, knowing God was real, and that, drug addiction and alcohol, where it was taking me, was to death. And there was only one thing, because it wasn't medication, it wasn't therapists, it wasn't counselors or doctors or anything that could really help me. But when I went to those rooms, it did focus on God. He was in those rooms, and that was the piece that spoke to me. And I am forever grateful to those programs, because God came alive for me in there. So that's how I became a believer of God. Today, God has put me on a different path since bringing him into my heart through program, and then removing me from program to pursue only him. And I had a whole different life before this. I was pursuing hair. I used to be a hairdresser, and that was my passion. And I still love fashion and the beauty industry. However, I don't do that anymore. And I went back to go get licensed as a cosmetologist 10 years later when I had finished beauty school. There's a massive gap there, because I had such a horrible problem with drugs and alcohol that I never pursued it. But, God intervened, and I ended up going back and getting licensed and pursuing hair. And I was certain that this was my path. I was gonna do it. I was gonna be okay. I was gonna make it, have an apartment, have a nice career, just be in this world and exist and be sober. And I used to make jokes and be like, I was happy shopping at Ross, living in my apartment, just kind of making it, right? Surviving out there. But I was sober, and that's all that mattered. Well, that was enough for me, but it wasn't for God. And so, that's a whole story in itself, but I'll just share quickly. God came to me one night and spoke, and he told me what I was to do for him, the path he wanted me to go down, essentially. And it was that night that everything changed in an instant. And he literally picked me up right out of that nightmare of a life of drugs and alcohol, horrible addiction, worst relapse ever, put me on a different path. And so I knew that I was to go back to school and that I was to go back and study psychology because he told me. And so he was holding a place for me there. And it all didn't make sense, no, but this fire was lit. This fire was lit so strong inside of me. I remember I came home and told my parents, I came to visit them one day, and I was like, I'm going back to school. And that to come out of my mouth was crazy. Like, I was not the kid out of all their kids that was the hard worker. Heck no. I was not the one to pursue something hard or make such a drastic change in my life and make a commitment somewhere that required like discipline. Oh my goodness. I was running the other direction from all that. And so one day I came home and told my parents, like, this is what I am going to do. And I shared with them. God spoke to me, and he told me what I am to do for him, for his people. And I've been on this path ever since. And so this was like 5 years ago. And I quit my job as a hairdresser at 40 years old. And I moved, I left my apartment that I was in, that I was like very happy with. And I was sober and just a few months, not even that long. And I moved home. My dad had just passed away. He got very sick. And he knew all of this right before he died and went home. And I think my dad was like kind of shocked at first, but he absolutely believed me. I told him that I'm going to go back to school, Dad. And God is holding a place for me in psychology. And because he asked me, well, what do you want to do? And I told him that. And he looked at me and he said, okay, then. Like, he was ready to do it. He was on board. And I'm very grateful. My parents, they supported me even after all the times that I went through what I went through. And I said things, tried to do things, didn't accomplish, didn't finish. I was on this path of hair, and all of a sudden I came home with like, I'm quitting this and I'm doing this. And it was kind of crazy talk, but it wasn't me, it was God. And I listened. And so I've been on this path ever since. And I moved home after Dad passed away, and I went back to school. And there's no shortcut here. Like, I have gone back to the very, very beginning. And I have been on the path for God. I don't think people quit their job and move home with their mom at 40 and pursue something this big. Like, I'm a psychology major. Yes, I've been studying pre-med. Now I just transferred. I'm at UCI. And so I'll be starting there in a few weeks for fall quarter. And my intention is to go to medical school and practice or get licensed. And I don't even know if I'll practice it like that because I don't feel that in my heart, but I am going to go to medical school and I am going to become a licensed psychiatrist. However, here's the interesting part. I'm not going into psychiatry to prescribe medication. I'm not doing it for that reason. I'm going into psychiatry so I can bring whatever I am to bring for God. He's coming into medicine. And so I have been on this surrender path that is so massive and big. And who does this at 40 and like commits to a process this big, this long? I may not be done with this. When it's all said and done, I'll be in my mid 50s by then. Okay, like this is crazy. And I can tell you right now from me that I am absolutely doing this for God and not for myself. This has nothing to do with me. And it's for him, for his people, because I love him and I'll do anything for God. Like, this is the least I can do because he saved my life, And so I'm on this path. And if it were for myself, I would probably quit, because who does this again at 40 for 15 years straight, goes back to school and pursues medicine? Like, this is no joke. sometimes people ask me a lot, like, oh, aren't you almost done? And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not even halfway. And so it's hard what I'm doing. And sometimes you think about wanting to quit, or you think that I think I want to quit, or I don't want to quit, but I'm just like, I don't know if I can do this. But I have to remember, I always go back to God and my love for him, and that I will see it through. And so that's a little bit about my story, and my life's work is centered around bringing God. He's coming into medicine, okay? He's coming. The truth of God, his way, consciousness, it's coming. And I am here. My life's work is centered around understanding the human mind. He's put this gift in me. It's not me. Like, I did not wake up one day and decide that I'm going to study the human mind. And am I going to school through academia to learn psychology and the brain and the mind and all of it? Yes, I am. I am a psych major. However, everything that I am learning, the good stuff, I like to call it, I'm not learning it necessarily from school. I have to learn those things. It's a part of my program. But God is also teaching me his way, and it's happening simultaneously at the same time. So everything that I bring here is the truth. And I mean that with all of my heart. I'm bringing the truth here, every last bit that he has taught me about the human mind, its function, the human condition, its behavior, and how it all relates to consciousness, how it all relates to the truth, how it relates to his design as creator and us as his creation. Every single thing that I make connections around here with you guys is coming from a place of where he's taught me himself. And so I'm not here to make up any stories or theorize potentially. Like, I bring you truth that he taught me. That's what I know in my heart. And I'm very grateful that God has trusted me. This is a major trust that he's put into me to deliver this to his people. And so I'm very grateful, and I don't take that lightly at all. I thank you, God, for the trust that you have put in me, the belief that you have put in me to deliver this to your people. And this is just the beginning. I don't exactly know. God doesn't check in with me, like I've told you guys, like where he's exactly taking me or how to do it. I am here, surrendered, learning, right? I am a student, and I am learning, and I am surrendered in this process. And so one thing I can share with you is the way God teaches me is through my own real life. So yes, I am having a lot of experience with God, but it's way different than picking up a textbook and listening to a lecture. No, like, this is the kind of learning that you do from experiencing it. And so it is in me. When I share it, it comes from a place of being in me. And I'm grateful to have all of this experience with God, for his people, for you. And I don't take it lightly. I take it very seriously. That's a little bit about me and where we're going together, because I truly believe that we are building a community here, God and I. And I'm here to help you guys understand truth about the human mind, truth, God who lives inside of you, and how it's all connected. Okay, and that's why I'm here. And I can't wait to keep going with you guys. So I thank you for all of your support and joining me in this channel and on this journey. And I thank you, God, for trusting me with all of my heart, and I love you. So guys, I will be back with more, but I did feel it was really important to me to share with you a little bit about who I am and why I'm here. So thanks, guys.